Well, not my familiarity with Sean, but styles of play and concepts on both ends of the floor, certainly helped. We shared a couple texts, but that's about it. It's one that when you're wrapped up in your season, you get in a bubble and you sort of cave it up and deal with your own staff and players. But I probably talk to Sean once every week, 2 weeks, and usually listen to him complain about his 30-4 team or whatever their record is. The list would go on and on. The stuff that I took from Sean, from how we organize our program, how we run our recruiting, to practice habits, to practice plans. I mean, how we stand during timeouts. There are a lot of things that I stole from Sean.
How do you stand during timeouts that you took from him? What, just specifically?
Well, whether it's a 30 or a full, you always want the point guard in front of you, and I want the 2 guard to my right, 4-man to my, his right or his left, my right, 3 and 5. Because guys play multiple positions, and so you never want to draw up a play for your 3-man and then find out when you go on the floor he's your 4. And so if guys come over to a huddle and just sort of stand wherever they please and wherever they want, then that can happen, because guys are coming in and out of the game so quickly, and you're subbing for matchups. The next thing you know, you call a play for the 3-man, and it's really your 4. So that's just one small example of the organization that Sean gave me. I have such a short-term memory. It's hard to think back, but I think that team wasn't necessarily a surefire NCAA tournament team. With a couple games left to play in the regular season. I know we went to Creighton with the weight of the world on our shoulders, much like we went to DePaul this year. And in both cases, to win on the road in the Big East, to I don't want to say cement your fate, but make you feel awfully better about going to the Big East tournament. Both teams did that, and I think both teams experienced pure joy in that locker room after we won in Jacksonville in 15, and then obviously on Saturday. And that's what I always remember about those two groups is how much fun the locker room was for them and memories that they'll keep the rest of their life, and that's how it was on Saturday. Something I've come to expect, which probably shouldn't be the case because so many coaches around the country don't have a player of Trayvon's capability and caliber. I'm happy for him because his first couple years, he wasn't great in the NCAA tournament. He was a big part of us getting the seed that we got or the run that we made to get there. But, this year he's really stepped up. You can see his confidence level. He just makes us a very, very difficult team to defend. When he's on the floor, it just seems like there's so much attention paid to him. It opens other guys up. And, he's really made strides on the defensive end and just played like a winner. And, that's what you need this time of the year. I think our team was searching a little bit in the Big East tournament in the first half against DePaul, and then Trey got it going with a couple offensive rebounds and started playing with a little bit more swagger, and I think our team really feeds off that. When he hits a couple jump shots, you can just see the team knows, like, wow, he's about to get on a roll, and I think it makes everybody else feel at ease when we're on the offensive end. I think that coaches can help with confidence. I want our guys to always play with an attacking mindset. And, the guys that we recruit, it's not the NBA. Joe, you can't just pick out who you want. They have to want you as well. But we try to value winning in the process. Guys that have won in high school, JP won a state championship, Trayvon won a state championship. Other guys maybe didn't win state. Kaiser won state, but to take your team far when you're one of the main pieces, I think helps when you get to this level. Guys are playing to win, want to win, know what it takes to win. There's a bigger jump at this level, but we certainly look for that in recruiting. It always helps when the ball goes in. Don't get me wrong, but we don't, as coaches, base our game plan around having to make a certain number of shots. And this is no disrespect to Arizona, it's what we do every game. We try to figure out weaknesses of of theirs offensively and defensively, and then try to take advantage of that, with our game plan. We try to create the best shots and opportunities we can for our players on the offensive end. For Florida State, I know everybody likes to talk about, the 10 for 15 or whatever we were at one point from the three-point line. Might have been even better. But we got the separation. We got up 25-10 or whatever it was because we had about 12 points through layup plays that resulted in 2-foot shots that took the wind out of their sails, that caused them to collapse, that got our guys more open looks. So that's what we're about as coaches, trying to figure out ways to get our guys open shots, whether they're from the three-point line or on the interior. And it's a little bit more difficult against Arizona. I think confidence is everything in the game of basketball. I think that he's taking advantage of his opportunities. He's always been a guy that can really score with his back to the basket. He's making his free throws, and that's even boosting his confidence, I think, even more. He's 15 to 16, I believe, in the NCAA tournament. Obviously he's getting fouled at a high level. We've played a couple teams that like to pressure, and a great pressure release is to be able to throw the ball inside, and if you have a guy that can score it, it opens up those looks from the perimeter. So we're going to continue to try to feed Sean, Tyreek, and Rashid, and hopes they continue to deliver. I haven't seen that many guys in college like him, and it's unique. Just when you think, well, maybe he can't do this, you watch another game on the computer and you're like, man, he just seems like he can do a little bit of everything. Some guys that are 7 feet tall and, aren't built like Shaquille O'Neal, you say, well, maybe they're a little soft. And the moment you get a guard on him on a switch, he rolls him right into the post and shoots the ball from 1 foot away. So he's really talented. I've seen all the stories, all the comments that Sean's made about Lowry, that he doesn't dole out those compliments and those type of stories unless they're true. So he's not the average guy that you find in college basketball often. It gets harder because you're playing better teams. There's a reason that teams have advanced, because they played better on that particular night. But again, we don't focus on the enormity of the stakes or the visibility of the game. We focus in on worrying about what can we do to beat Arizona. And everything else will take care of itself. If we were fortunate enough to advance, then we'd worry about the next opponent. It's a 2-game, 4-team tournament, and the winner has a nice little prize. There are a lot of them. I think, for us, as it relates to really anybody that gets out in the open floor, we have to take care of the ball and generate good shots against their size, whether that's inside or outside, to try to box them in as much as we can that they're playing half-court basketball on offense. And then we have to figure out a way to win the rebounding battle. And if we can do those two things, then I think we give ourselves a chance to compete in the last 4-minute war to win the game. And that's what we tried to do in the first 2 games, and obviously we didn't have to necessarily worry about the last 4-minute war other than Maryland. But that's our goal heading in.